I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Some scattered showers and thunderstorms we're tracking out there this afternoon. We've heard very few complaints about them, but from time to time they could be kicking out some strong wind gusts. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon, and welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 6. From the Room to Room Weather Center, we are looking at not just those chances for rainfall, but also the heat, which has prompted the return of some heat advisories around our region as well. It's not for everybody, but I think we get closer to that threshold into this upcoming weekend. And while temperatures could get near the triple-digit point at that point, I don't know that the heat indices are going to be as extreme as when last time we had some major heat. Rain, I think, will peak for tomorrow. Again, those near 100-degree temperatures for the weekend mean that I would be planning ahead personally, maybe to try to find a body of water to sit next to, or at least some water to ingest this weekend, because it is expected to get pretty hot. Our forecast hour by hour over the first 12. Again, those scattered showers and thunderstorms, we have a few out there. We will track those with Mississippi Live Weather Radar here in just a moment. I think that rain coverage diminishes more by 10 p.m., 78 that temperature then, 76 by 1 o'clock in the morning, in the mid-70s for early tomorrow. A non-zero chance for a few showers as you send the kids out the door tomorrow morning. Most of us will not see that, but a few of us could, and so that's one thing we'll look at with Futurecast here with our first 24. But outside in Amory right now, it's just kind of that mix of mainly higher clouds that has limited temperatures for the southern part of the area today. Temperature there in Monroe County coming in 90. Hiding the thing. And the reporting station, by the way, that we monitor for Amory sometimes overdoes the dew point a little bit with the moisture there. I don't know whether it's just the proximity there to the river out east of town, but it shows that dew point at 79, giving us a feels like temperature of 106. I'm going to hope that's just overdone just a little bit, because that's rough, and one of the more rough temperatures we do have out there. A mix of cloud cover there in Rolling Fork, as we've had some showers close to, you can see those on the horizon. We'll look at that again, Mississippi Live Weather Radar here in a minute. 94 feels like 102 in the Mississippi Delta, where our storms have been the strongest to this point. And Oxford here, just looking at that mix of clouds as we look toward the distance there. We've had a couple pop-up thunderstorms trying to get close. We're 93. What direction is this camera facing there in Oxford? Are we logged in on?
We are not logged in on that.
Oh, we're not logged in on that one.
So, do you want me to get on here?
Nope. We'll go and leave it there. We'll worry about that in the commercial break here in just a second. My apologies on that. We did a restart on a computer. You know how that goes. Looking at latest visible satellite perspective, I talked about that cloud cover. Here are those cirrus clouds we're catching the north side there of Amory and back here toward Macon. Not much moisture with that. These are high, thin clouds that unfortunately are made up mainly ice crystals. It'd be nice to get some ice down and close the surface, but that doesn't happen there. But you see those brighter white cloud tops back into the Delta from Memphis back toward Cleveland and Hollandale, back there toward Greenville. That's where we've had, again, a few of those thunderstorms trying to pop up. We'll start in the northeast part of the state. We've had more showers and thunderstorms on the Alabama side that just have not, really expanded in. This loop here, and again, we're going to talk about that radar in Monroe County. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynor has got an update for on when, hopefully, or at least an idea on why we don't have that radar available to us. That's a National Weather Service radar. Nobody in the region has it, unfortunately. So as we look at radar here, we're looking from farther away from Memphis. We've had some pop-ups there north of Iuka, but again, we're looking very high up, over a mile up in the air with this, and these are all fairly weak. I'm trying to maybe expand there along Pickwick Lake, but again, at this point here, not terribly impressive, and I'd say the rest there of northern Tishomingo County just kind of waiting for something to try to move up. A lot of heavy rainfall with this storm up there closer to Memphis area. As far as South Haven, Hernando are concerned, and I'll kind of loop this here, make it a 1 hour loop for you, assuming it decides to get going. I'm going to give it a third try, and I'm going to walk back over here, and we'll see if I click it on this one, if it likes to behave. Make it a 1 hour loop. Well, that one's not going to loop. That's okay. We'll see when we change it here in a second if it'll go ahead and loop for us on this perspective. So give me just a moment. Well, that one works. So we'll go back up north and check that out here in a second. We had that storm around Cleveland we talked a lot about toward the end of our 5 o'clock broadcast, and we talked about how it was going through that collapsing phase, and certainly that has happened. It kicked out the rain-cooled air. That's what made that camera jostle back and forth there, and that kind of sparked this other thunderstorm we have south of Cleveland. Not a lot of lightning strikes. This is not a particularly strong thunderstorm there or shower at this point here, but we have had some additional showers kind of develop, and we were looking at some of these. This is kind of the problem with not being able to see out of Monroe County with this. We just have to look really, really high up there. But a couple little pop-ups there closer to Takapola and Algoma. These are not strong on our scale there. I mean, just to kind of prove that when we look at the various severe weather threats, again, from Memphis, we call our threats here our peak threats. Just the greens showing up, that represents moderate to heavy rainfall, and thankfully nothing beyond that at this point here related to that. And those just going to kind of probably expand, I think, in coverage a little bit. I would say it's reasonable that we will continue to have, I think, additional development in the next couple of hours here. Our projections have that. We'll show you with the Futurecast here in a minute where it's kind of depicting that. But you also can see this green line represented there back closer to central Mississippi. There's Ridgeland, there's Canton. That is an outflow boundary. I want to point out the fact that we have two of these. We have this one right there near Flora, and we've got another one back here toward Yazoo City and Vicksburg that's already kind of just sitting there. And so as this one expands backward, we expect some additional development along this in the next hour and a half, kind of in this zone here closer to Yazoo City. I point that out because it's possible that a few of those come off of that. And we do show that in our projection, getting closer to Duck Hill, Grenada, Winona, Kosciuszko later on this evening as that kind of slaps together. We'll look at that again. Futurecast here in a minute. I think the positioning on Futurecast is okay, but it's not perfect. And then this residual shower activity we have here, I'm going to make this a much longer loop. We'll go 6-hour loop here, as we had a lot more thunderstorms earlier on than that blow off of cirrus clouds that we have there. And that's that high thin cloud cover we're showing down there closer to Macon that's kind of expanded up there. What we call convective debris, just basically leftover stuff after storms have formed. So no severe weather threat officially by the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma, related to what we have out there this evening. This is your threat for tomorrow, a non-thing, and your threat again for Thursday. Severe weather, not something that we anticipate out of the setup in the next couple of days here, outside of maybe a very, very isolated report or two. So on our Doppler radar, nearest front stalling out before it gets here, active weather Texas, active weather, I mean, look at this, the east, just all the rainfall they've had. And the rainfall has been obviously much more significant for locations back that direction, not just now, but recently as well. Let me see, 24-hour rainfall, just well, and I guess this is, now I'm thinking about, this would be the Monroe County radar, so that's why that's not going to pull up. We'll look at that with our national perspective here in a couple of minutes, but takeaway being the rainfall zone has been out to the west. But notice here how Futurecast does get at least a couple of isolated thunderstorms going up here in the northern part of the state. We show some from Savannah, Tennessee, back toward around Oxford. This is kind of that zone that we were looking at back toward Canton and Jackson, Winona, where maybe some of those thunderstorms get going as those two boundaries slap together. I think it's something fairly well represented here on the radar perspective, with a greater quantity of thunderstorms, again, down towards South Mississippi than what we have up here north. A few up near the far northern tier of the state, maybe up there, Alcorn, Tishomingo, or Prentiss County overnight, so not shocked to see some rumbles. We'll look at Futurecast more clearly with that in a minute. And then you see this general circulation that we have back out here ongoing with this stuff back out toward Mobile. It's just kind of a weak low pressure center that's just going to kind of lift up this direction here. We like to get some moisture off of it. To a certain extent, you could argue we might see just a little bit off of that as we head toward tomorrow. I mean, see, even my angle was too optimistic on Futurecast here. It has it going a little bit more east than that. So takeaway being rainfall chances as good as we're going to get probably tomorrow. They're not particularly good. So over the next 24, our rain coverage 10% tomorrow morning. Yes, possibility maybe a couple isolated showers early. We're dry for most of the first half of the day. It takes until afternoon to get more thunderstorms developing. Around 30% by 3 p.m. that coverage, 40% by 6 p.m. And what we anticipate being probably our best chance for rainfall in the next week. Low 90s for highs, heat indices around 100. And we do expect that those heat indices will increase more through the upcoming few days and into the weekend, but maybe not to the same extent the temperatures are increasing into the upper 90s and near 100. We'll look at that in more detail live from the Room to Room Weather Center. And of course, your latest on Mississippi Live Weather Radar as Mississippi Live Weather at 6 o'clock continues. A lot of lives going on there. We'll see you in just a moment.
At Room to Room, did you know our specialty is custom ordered upholstery? Get the furniture you want and the fabric and color selection you want. With our free design service, we won't let you make a mistake.
Your family deserves the most beautiful smile possible. At Tupelo Smiles, we use precision dentistry and advanced technology to make visiting the dentist an amazing experience. Relationship-based comprehensive care. Come discover the difference at Tupelo Smiles.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. You know, we knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lobhon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lobhon has proven himself trustworthy.
Right now,
flash
from
flood
the
emergency.
Mississippi Live Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
You know, in some places, people are getting a lot of rainfall, and that's the problem with these stuck patterns we get this time of year. Somebody sees nothing, us, and other people see too much. A lot of flash flood warnings on and going back out toward the Chattanooga area. We had some folks on our live stream kind of asking specifically about that. We appreciate everyone who does comment on that. That's where Facebook does a good job. I know we have tons of people that watch in the apps. We appreciate that. We encourage that here as you're watching us here on Mississippi Live Weather. But obviously, we also appreciate a little bit of that back and forth that you give us. So we appreciate all that. But you can see here, over the last 6 hours, almost 4 to 5 inches of rainfall out of that there. Looking over the last 3 hours, 4 inches or so. And really the last hour, an inch, inch and a half. So there's been a lot of rainfall for some of these areas out there. So flash flood warnings, when you see those, it's one of those things, let me go and clear all that off, that we don't always take the most seriously as we should. They have these all the way issued until 11:45 p.m. our time zone. But you have to take these seriously. More people die every year from flash flooding than tornadoes and hurricanes combined, and more people die from heat than anything else. It's just how seriously we do and do not take these. That's what's important. And so just something to keep in mind. And obviously for our area, the amounts have not been as impressive, have they been? We've watched some of these showers out here closer to the Muscle Shoals area, but even here, looking over the course of the last hour or so, some of those spots, we do show up around an inch, inch and a half or so, but certainly the rainfall amounts have not been particularly impressive. We're going to come back wider here, and we're going to go to our radar site. I think we're going to start out of the Memphis area for a moment, and that'll kind of show us some of the thunderstorms that we have in other parts of the area. Let's come in a little closer. We're trying to get a shot of some of these back here toward Potlockney. Wow, that's a new one. Okay. So I knew we had some new radar, new locations or other locations on the radar site. That one's going to tell me in the comments below how close we got on that one. I want to show our camera from out there in the Oxford area, and I'm hoping that this is updated to the right camera on here. Yeah. Nope, that's Pontotoc. Give me Oxford. And I might not have changed our thing here to the... Oh, we still have MDOT cams on that. Give me a moment. I'm going to have to kind of go about it the long way to pull up the sites. So I need OXFORD and... Gabe Maynor says it's worth it. I trust Gabe Maynor. So let's double click that. And this is our shot there out of Oxford. Give me a moment. Give it a second. It takes it a second to pull in. There we go. Change the angle. See, it pulls in. There's an image or two. It waits a second to pull that in. Yeah, nice little rainbow there out of Oxford from our camera site there. Appreciate Caleb manning the joystick on that shot there. But some of those showers, this actually not from really any of the clouds you're seeing there. The rainbow itself is probably actually from the storm that's up at the top there, kind of shining down on that. So yeah, pretty cool shot there of a rainbow on that camera lens. Like that. 95 feels like 100 because, again, the showers are south of Oxford, not necessarily over top of the Oxford area. Hey, on a sticky note, we need to remind me to fix that to where we put Oxford back into that, the new Oxford camera there. I say new, they've had it for a little while, the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. Another one there near Randolph. But again, these are not particularly impressive. When we start looking at how much rainfall these could be kicking out, the amounts are pretty limited there. Let's see if we can do A 3-hour rainfall on that. Yeah, I mean, so for perspective on that scale there, what does that end up getting up to? Now, I show that Potlockney area there. Boy, somebody's going to have to tell me if that's the right description. Okay, what do you think, Gabe and Caleb? Put your mic. You can turn your microphone on. Potlockney.
Hang on, I think it's coming up now. Okay, Potlockney is what I would believe.
Potlockney?
But it feels so
Okay.
broken up. There's too many emphasized
Potlockney?
syllables.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm going to go.
I don't think there's
Potlockney.
any other way you can say
There
that.
really isn't, and that's what someone's going to tell me. And you know, we try to. Sometimes people ask, by the way, why do we have all those locations on there? And there's an excellent reason why, because you and I that don't live there don't know where that is, but there is somebody right there that knows. I know exactly where Potlockney is, and so that's what these city names are for, like Esperanza or Altus or Porterton. That's not one that I recognize there as well. So we'll get out there as we continue to go through the next few months here and hopefully do some touring of the area. And who knows, maybe we'll end up with a live shot in Potlockney, assuming there's enough cell phone signal for that, which might be an uphill battle from time to time. Back here to precipitation mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Again, most locations here in the northern part of the state just under impressive on what we're seeing. And most of what we've had out in the Delta continues to kind of fall apart. I'm going to change it over to our radar site down here. Again, we're kind of waiting on some of these thunderstorms to get going down closer to Yazoo City. Let's see that Greenville camera and look toward the south and east on that. We'll kind of pull that up here in just a moment. We should have kind of a shot of that there, but I want to put this into motion for you again. And again, we have this boundary here where storms have kind of developed. And you can even see that one, how it kind of has the ring around it. Think about this like you threw a rock into a pool or into a calm lake surface, and it hits and it sends out that ring. That's what's happening here. And so when the waves hit together, you get a few more thunderstorms that pop up a little higher. And so a possibility with that there in the next couple of hours that this is what develops in. We'll look at that with Futurecast here in just a moment. Let's come up here again toward the Hollinsdale storm. And as we kind of look at this in more detail near Empire, again, that's not overly impressive. Looking at the severe threats related to this, I would say our threat tracker on this, give me just a moment. Actually, I'm looking too far away on that. There we are, threats. Yeah, just green, so just rainfall on this. But our camera down there, let's look at that one and see what it looks like to the naked eye, or I guess to the naked lens. Again, this is going to take a second to update. There's always a moment or two when we go to it. And so, yeah, that's looking down toward that one there with a few things popping up in the foreground, but that's still pretty isolated, not particularly impressive. We're looking southeast, 144 degrees. You can see down in the corner there, that would be about the right angle that we'd be looking toward that. So this one's still kind of developing, maybe a little bit more rainfall there, but not the most impressive of shots as well. We're going to check our camera in Cleveland, and as we go up, I don't know if I have Cleveland on this map.
Well, it's another worthwhile shot if you want to go
I'm
the long way
going to pull
around.
it up the other way. I think we're into this at 5, so we'll write that down on our sticky note as well. We used a lot of sticky notes today. Cleveland, pull that up.
Let's just say Caleb is our rainbow wrangler right now.
Oh, now that is not a term that I knew this morning that maybe even exists, but I think that could be, we put that on your name key, like dedicated rainbow wrangler. Okay, so there's Cleveland with the rain that's kind of hit.
Let it load in here real quick.
Okay. Oh, there you go. That's a double.
Double.
And I don't know that, I'm going to make this up. Right there. I don't know if there's triple. I think, I don't want to get in an argument with somebody on whether or not you can even get a triple, but the distance there, note how, again, because it's raining right overhead, it looks like that one goes all the way down, and this one, again, a little weaker, doesn't go all the way down there, but it has to do with the refraction at the different, to a certain extent, with the different distances away you are from the raindrops that are occurring, right?
Yeah, I think Cleveland's also the pot of gold because it's the end of the rainbow.
It is the head of the rainbow, and you know what you could do? Widen that just a little bit, because you know what we're going to have there? We got one of those rainbows going right down there to the American flag.
I think this is as zoomed out as
It's a zoomed out. Then you got to go down just a little bit, because I just want that shot of the one of the rainbows ended on the American flag. I think that's cool. So yeah, this one's running just a moment or two behind. That sometimes happens as we get into heavier rainfall. So we'll wait for that to kind of come up for you, in theory. Boy, it's more than a second or two behind, isn't it? Boy, how behind is this one? Now that happens when the precipitation comes around from time to time. Well, we'll come back to that at the end. We'll wrangle that rainbow for you. Okay, so with that in mind, checking everything else out there, and I'm coming back here. It is so hard jumping around, honestly, when this is how important these individual radars are, because I rely so heavily on that Monroe County site that it's hard to kind of get around and show all these. Yeah, outside of that, we're largely good at this point here. Okay, so let's bring it back here and kind of pick up in Corinth, where we've had a couple of showers from time to time around today, but none overhead right now. 90 degrees there at the Crossroads Museum, the temperature, and of course looking toward the famous Crossroads at this point with the blue skies showing up there. Hour-by-hour forecast for tomorrow, 75 in the morning, 88 by around noontime, and 90 for tomorrow afternoon. Again, rain chances, best we're going to have probably in the next week, as we look toward tomorrow in the afternoon to evening. So here's hoping, crossing fingers, that maybe your house and my house, maybe everybody's house who's watching right now. That would increase viewership. Everyone immediately calls somebody like, no, they're promising rain if you're watching. Can't promise that, but it would be a nice thing if we could make that happen. 90 at 3 p.m. tomorrow, that temperature. Again, here are those spotty showers. And as we talked about earlier, we kind of have that zone where we have those two outflows coming together. And that's where this is filling in there with some isolated thunderstorms all the way back to practically the Jackson area and near Canton, Yazoo City, and Greenwood there. So this is the zone where we expect some additional development, best chances for rainfall along that, because it's probable that we still have that zone where some of those thunderstorms up toward Oxford now are developing. So I think that still includes Tupelo, maybe Houston, Eupora in that chance for a spotty shower and thunderstorm this evening. Again, exact locations always kind of relative there, especially this time of the year, but here's some hope. And we do have some of those showers we depict up here closer to the Tennessee state line, maybe midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning, a possibility to get a couple of those going there. As we look at Futurecast for early tomorrow, mostly dry in the morning. It does have maybe a couple isolated showers out there, but not a lot. And temperatures going to around 74 to begin the day. Amory and Columbus, about 73 degrees in Houston, 74 in Tupelo, 74 degrees in Greenwood, and out near Bolivar County, we're looking at around 73 degrees. So we do have heat advisories. We talked about this off the top. Most locations in the north and eastern portion of the state don't have these in effect, but we do have them in effect, as you can see, Tallahatchie County, Quitman, Coahoma, Tunica, start naming, let's keep going. Bolivar, Sunflower, Washington, Humphreys, LaFleur counties, those in effect until tomorrow evening, and possibility of additional heat advisories as we go toward this upcoming weekend. Again, Futurecast, couple pop-up showers. You can see up here toward Holly Springs, there's that limited chance we were talking about early tomorrow morning. Most of us dry, it's just not impossible to get something going. And then as we progress toward around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, those chances remain still pretty limited out there. Now we're toward midday, again dry, and then notice noon, 1, 2 o'clock, that's when some of these start to go. These are trying. So when you see the green here, I'm not expecting this to really yield much rainfall at this point. That's when the thunderstorms are trying to get going, trying to start building there. Eventually they kind of test the atmosphere. You could argue test the cap where they're just bubbling up, trying to break through the boundary layer there, and they do a better job of that by 3, 4 o'clock there. Houston, we show Boonville, and look at this greater quantity up here, kind of developing in that 5 to 6 p.m. time period. Still some spotty storms there south of Bruce, where we do get some of that darker black, darker red color showing up there. That's where we have some of that heavier rainfall, and that's where the very limited chance of maybe 1 or 2 strong wind gusts come in. This is not a severe weather threat on any sort of real scale, but I think there's just enough dry air there, and if we get one of these thunderstorms enough as it plops down its rainfall, that it evaporates some of that and we cause some stronger wind gusts. That's kind of how that all works. Mid-90s out there for high temperatures for tomorrow. Heat indices, always the more important number pretty much this time of year. 105 Clarksdale, 103 Belzona, and Greenwood. Of course, the Delta, the hottest. That's where those heat advisories are obviously in effect. And then those spotty thunderstorms continue into your Wednesday evening, Wednesday night, kind of expanding back southward. You initially have this flare-up of thunderstorms up here we were talking about in the afternoon to early evening, Grenada, Bruce, Boonville. And then as those kind of collapse, they kick out that rain cool there. And this shows that expanding southward. Here's hoping that's the case. That would expand where a good chunk of us see rainfall. And that's why it's our best chance. I'm still probably watering the lawn tonight and tomorrow morning just in case. It's supposed to typically water in the morning so you don't get fungus, all that kind of stuff. But obviously water early in the day. And let's hope Mother Nature provides a second watering by tomorrow evening. Early Thursday, just a couple spotty thunderstorms out there. Our futurecast here, our strike model, still pretty spotty on the rain chances through midday Thursday. But then we hit that perfect temperature. The thunderstorms start popping up in the afternoon to maybe early evening time period there, continuing to possibly Thursday evening. Wider shot shows that the nearest front isn't near enough, so we're not talking about a cooler air, as this could be a focal point for maybe a couple thunderstorms up north of us. It will not make it down here with anything that even resembles cool air. So temperatures, we're 92 for the high in Tupelo for tomorrow, 93 Tunica, 94 degrees in Clarksdale, 92 in the Cleveland area. And again, that heat index, the hottest out here for the Delta, but notice for some of us, the hotter day ends up being Columbus at 102 there, 100 degrees in Starkville for your heat index on Thursday. And certainly those will go up more into the extended forecast. Here's a look at that, by the way. Heat index over the next 7 days. Notice how it's still moderated to a certain extent through Thursday. And believe it or not, it's as we switch things over to marginally drier air that I think that helps boost the heat indices and temperatures more into the weekend. I know that might sound different, but I do think the overall pattern sets up where we probably see that heat spike a little bit more and actual temperatures up there in excess of the mid-90s. Well above normal for this time of year as we head into this upcoming weekend. So heat indices as a result respond. So 7-day forecast, we're looking at 40% on that rain coverage, best rain chance of the next week for your Wednesday, 91 the high, with rain coverage again peaking in the late afternoon to early evening. As we look toward Thursday, again, some spotty showers and thunderstorms still out there, hopefully enough. And again, what we showed you on Futurecast a moment ago, I would qualify as probably 40 to 50%. Would you agree with that, Gabe? If you were looking just pulling straight off the model. I am underdoing that on our forecast because we just, honestly, how much have we really had lately? So I'm betting against the model to a certain extent. So the model is playing up rain chances. I'm playing them down just because I feel like we've had a losing hand on that recently. And a lot of times when we get in this dry pattern, it takes a while to break back out of it. So 20% rain coverage there for Friday, 96 the high temperature with dry conditions for the most part for your Saturday and Sunday, limited pop-up sort of showers as we look into the extended forecast by the first part of next week. And as those shower chances come back, temperatures could go down maybe just a little bit more as a result. Okay, coming up here in a minute, we're going to be talking again with our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, as we are tracking a couple things. First and foremost, the tropics. We're looking at Aaron. We mentioned it a lot yesterday. Still forecast to become a major hurricane. Where is it going and when? We're timing that out as Mississippi Live Weather at 6 continues from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Here is your opportunity to add 2 beautiful guns to your collection and support scouting. Scan the QR code to purchase your chance to win a Browning Citori 725 Sporting Maple over and under 12 gauge shotgun, or a 75th anniversary Boy Scout commemorative Winchester Model 9422 rifle. Support the Natchez Trace Council Scouts with your raffle entries today.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
1 in 10 kids vape. Each vape pod can contain the same amount of nicotine as a pack of cigarettes.
The Health Class Film Guy isn't the best person to talk to your kid about vaping. Got a few minutes? You are. Talk to your child about vaping today.
So Tropical Storm Aaron continues to grab our attention heading into that extended forecast. As of right now, tropical storm strength, but as that pushes out towards the west and closer to the United States, I didn't say going into it, I say closer, then we'll see that possibly become a major hurricane. So, I was about to block the advisory. So there you see right there on your screen, 45 miles an hour is where those winds sit right now, 1,006 millibars on that pressure track. Both of those, the wind starting to increase, pressure starting to decrease as that pushes west. By Thursday, we're still tracking tropical storm strength, but as it pushes further into the western Atlantic, that's where that'll really start to build in strength. Category 1 Friday early morning. By the time we reach Saturday afternoon, Cat 2, and then we could be talking Cat 3, that major hurricane threshold, which is Category 3 or above by the time we get towards our Sunday afternoon. And you see those wind speeds, 115 miles an hour. So if this can avoid land, well, then that would be best case scenario. But as we look at some of those models that are tracking it out, one of those models does a great job on talking about that future atmospheric moisture. And you might see Aaron just going along the mid-Atlantic right there, and then extending into that northeast track. And as it reaches close to the United States, you have this dominant high-pressure system that is going to force it out almost. So that high pressure is currently sitting in the southeast United States on your Tuesday evening, and it's basically, like we talked about yesterday, getting that split right in the middle. So where that splits, where that weakness is, then it rides up that corridor and stays outside of the United States, and will mainly have effects in regards to currents. You could see some stronger rip currents along the Carolina coastline, but over here, I mean, that's honestly best case scenario at this point because we are seeing very little impacts there in the United States. And it is this model, it's also one of our other long track models kind of having this same trend, which is of course a strong hurricane, but also the fact that it's staying away from the United States. We extend that out and then moving up that northeast trend by the time we get towards our Tuesday. Okay, but what we're tracking as well is going to be GWX and the radar site.
Yes, so I'm going to pull up the radar that you mentioned there a moment ago, which he used our code behind the scenes, which is GWX. It's the radar site there in Monroe County, and it's been broken better part of the last 2 weeks at least. But what did you hear from the Weather Service on the updates with that?
Well, so we reached out just to see what was going on, and they told us that it's like an old classic car. You know, when you order parts for it and the mechanic says, you know, it's going to take a little bit to get it because those parts, you know, they're not going to be readily available at your Advanced Auto Parts right down the road.
Yeah.
Well, same thing with the radar side. A radar side is a classic car, and it takes a little bit to get some of those parts in. So as of now, no ETA on that time frame, and but they are hopeful to get them as soon as possible.
Yeah, and you mentioned that's what's kind of a weird about this situation. Usually, it takes only a couple of days. It's not, we have no ETA on the parts.
Yeah.
So that is unusual. So we don't know exactly when it's coming back because of that, unfortunately. Because it's not like you can go to Radio Shack. Well, do Radio Shacks exist anymore? In some cases they do. You know, and get a tube off of the shelf and stick it in there.
You're talking about Radio Shack. I'm going to make you feel old. I have no idea what Radio Shack is.
At all?
At all.
Oh man.
I know.
We had a
Caleb,
Radio Shack?
you?
Yeah, I've heard of
You
it.
do?
Yeah.
Golly, maybe I'm just too young.
Just clueless.
I'm
It's
too
okay.
young.
You're all hair. No. But anyway, Radio Shack was a store. Most towns had it, fairly small, and they had like all kinds of components. So if you would go in, like you have something messed up on the radio, you go in and you can unsolder something and solder something. You know what solder is?
I do know what solder is.
Okay.
Annalise taught me over the weekend, actually.
Man, I
fresh
knew you
concept.
married up, but man, I didn't realize it was sky high. So anyway, so that is something that we do think we'll get hopefully figured out here soonish. And the thing to remember is the type of radar that we have all around the country is what's called a WSR 88D. 88 standing for 1988, and it has to do with the point at which the NEXRAD, which stood for Next Generation of Radar, was developed. It was mainly implemented in the first part of the 90s. But we're talking, what year were you? No, I'm not going to do that to you. Anyway, so 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, we're talking about 30-year-old radars. And they've gone through a number of refurbishments on these radars over the years, even down to the shelters where the equipment has been placed. So it's not all 30-year stuff, but this is certainly, they're not cheap to run and they're not cheap to make. And at some point, they're going to need some replacement.
Well, and while we don't know what specifically happened with this radar site, extreme heat, extreme weather conditions can do all the damage that, you know, could have taken place. So it could have been the extreme heat we got a couple of weeks ago.
Could have been air conditioner gone out and then something burns up. You know, the same thing that happens in your house. It's not just, you know, the air conditioner went out. It's the air conditioner went out. Now the refrigerator couldn't keep things cool because it couldn't displace it because it was too hot in the house, and so that takes it out.
Domino effect.
That happened to us with a freezer one time where it was too cold outside, and so it was, I know, messed it up.
That is so ironic.
I know, right? Too cold for the freezer.
Well, and I do want to add real quick, with the radar, some folks might be watching that, get on the app and are able to see all of these showers popping up and think, well, what's the issue? Well, that's when those local radars come into play. So it's not the national composite that we're talking about.
I want to look on mine to see, because I have had mine on national composite for a while. I will bet that there's some people out there that are messaging us and are like, hey, my local radars, why is the radar in your app not working? Because if you have it on the local radar, I will bet money that it's just showing up blank, and people are like, well, hold on. Why
or the last radar scan, which would have been a while ago.
Yeah, I think it is worthwhile for us to take a moment and find out the answer to that question. So I'm going to go to Northeast Mississippi Radar. And if you're on the app and you click Northeast Mississippi Radar, that's the one I'm talking about. That would be our Monroe County radar. Let's find out together. And yeah, it's a whole bunch of nothing. And so if I'm looking at that, I'm like, well, hold on. And I know it's clear because it's green map. This does this every time.
Kind of cool.
But there's no rain. There's no rain on there. There's actually rain on the radar, but unfortunately, it just doesn't show up because of that Northeast Mississippi radar. So you want to click that off until they're able to get that radar fixed. National radar is what we need there.
Exactly, and that's just a national composite. It's kind of an HD blend of all the different radar sites. So it gives a good idea of what's happening, but when it comes to really analyzing these storms and showing, vertical development, or if there's any spin associated with it, or any of those threat trackers that we need, well, of course, that's when the local radars come really handy.
Absolutely. So a couple questions here. Since we've gone over on time, Let's go more. Go more over, right?
Exactly.
So on the Facebook chat here, first off, they reminded me it's not just Radio Shack, it's Circuit City. Do you remember Circuit City?
No.
Man. Okay.
Was Circuit City more frequent than Radio Shack?
So Circuit City was bigger. I'm gonna leave my. Don't show suspenders on this day. We have good enough air conditioning in here. We can pull it off. No, Circuit City was like Best Buy, sort of.
I know Best Buy.
Best Buy still
if you
in
want
business,
some credit.
so that's man, these youngins. Okay.
Well, Caleb's an old at heart apparently because he knows what Radio Shack is.
There you go. Let's come back here. So someone was asking, could Aaron affect air travel? And the answer is always yes, because it's not necessarily where your plane's flying now, it's where your plane came from. And so I think that they will probably be able to do it's way out there now, obviously. And I'm gonna go back to that Aaron graphic if we can. I think the graphic we had here, I'm gonna take that into our editor. So then we can kind of move it around. Okay, so let's take this. So this is like all turned up there with the precipitation, with this, and the moisture with that. This isn't precipitation, this is more moisture, right? Okay, so you'll notice if we get this, far enough out here, it kind of turns northward. So then the question becomes where your plane's coming from. Are your planes coming from, Africa? Then yes. Otherwise, I think, it's probably going to be largely pretty good as far as air travel is concerned out there, assuming this is the track. Now, it could come a little bit farther west. I would say it's a tall task for it to make it all the way to the U.S. coast at this point. Would you agree?
It would take a complete shift in the atmospheric setup on both of our long track models that are in, it's just a tough thing to come by, a bit of an agreement on that long track.
Yeah, you're telling me that the models don't always agree? Go
That's
ahead.
the fun part about being a meteorologist.
Yeah.
Do you want me to advance it?
Yeah. Let's go wider here because I think that's an opportunity for us to talk about one other. No.
I jumped the gun. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I don't know if you'll have to hit the back button there. And then go ahead and advance that. Yeah, this is actually better because this gives us the really wide shot here. And so we're always looking at the center track, the possible center track of this system. So go ahead and go with it. And so the center of it, we feel very confident over the next few days. But notice how that gets a lot wider by the weekend. So let's be clear here. They're still keeping on that cone of uncertainty an angle that could get it up here toward the Gulf, but certainly much, 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 much greater confidence that it is not the Gulf.
And both long track models agree. This is just the cone of uncertainty up to a certain point. It doesn't really go too far long track beyond this point just because it could be so much variance in that long track.
Absolutely. And so we try not to show the really extended because they go out 360 hours, which
anything's possible. Hour 300.
I always joke that there's always a hurricane at hour 300 this time of year, maybe two.
Exactly.
And most of the time it's wrong. So that's the thing about models. They give us the best guess based on the data we have.
But that's the thing. If we have one that does agree model run after model run with a different entire model, well, then that gives us a good idea that there's a higher confidence than usual this far out that that's the track that it's going to take. So that's why we have some reassurance that this is going to trend north, even though we are still a week from this happening.
Absolutely. Okay, Gabe, appreciate your time. Appreciate your time here at home on Mississippi Live Weather at 6. And a reminder that if you would like to get the app, please get the app. We appreciate it. And more than 115,000 of you have done that so far. And I cannot put in the words how thankful we are for the tremendous support that you have given us. But as we work our way toward these stormier seasons, we know that there are going to be some grandmas, grandpas, uncles, aunts, and maybe moms and dads, depending on your age, that need help getting this downloaded. Snapping this picture here, doing a screenshot of it, and then just holding that in front of their phone on the camera, probably the easiest way to do that. Our next live broadcast will be right here from the Room to Room Weather Center at 10 p.m. tonight. We'd love to see you for Mississippi Live Weather at 10. Until then, have a great evening.
the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.